going into the new year. We've passed a tax cut. ISIS is back on their heels. The stock market, record highs. Regulations have been cut in record ways. We may be able to survive this. And then, boom, the Michael Wolff book comes out. And then last night, boom, another example of the President of the United States doing everything he can to get in the way of or obstruct an investigation. And I wonder if Republicans on the Hill are just starting to get the sense from the ones that you talk to, sort of the same sense we had during the campaign, that Hillary Clinton's campaign was never going to get a chance to take off because every day there was going to be another story. It was going to be a death by 1,000 cuts. And you were never going to have Hillary Clinton talking about issues because just like Donald Trump, every day it's another book, it's another article, it's another breaking news story.
Well, there was some sense, Joe, before the new year and when taxes were very much in doubt that the entire party could implode in the new year, that Steve Bannon somehow had this wind at his back and he was going to go and challenge Republicans across the slate. Now, you do have this Michael Wolff book coming out. You do have all this erratic tweeting by the president. But you also have Steve Bannon, who was the biggest mortal threat to this party, essentially imploding. And I think this is something that has been underappreciated within the past couple of days here, is that Steve Bannon is really losing his financial benefactors in the Mercers, that this has been percolating under the surface. And if you think about the threat and the pressure that folks like Mitch McConnell were feeling before the new year when they thought that Steve Bannon could have some wind at his back, I think despite everything, all things considered, that there are Republicans feeling some sense of relief because, Joe, yes, you and I as outside observers see these things that are very troubling about the president talking, casually joking about nuclear war on Twitter. But in some ways, it's more of the same. And in terms of raw politics and the raw political calculation that this party is making about the threat that it faces, well, that looks a lot more neutralized today than it did a few weeks ago.
Jonathan Lemire also talking about the president, talking about this book. You even had some of the president's allies yesterday wondering why he was doing everything that he could to draw more attention to this book. I think Byron York in the Washington Examiner said there is nothing that Donald Trump could have done more to help Michael Wolff's book and his political enemies than to become the president who is trying to stop the publication of a critical book. Read the book that the president of the United States doesn't want you to read. It's a publisher's dream. Again, you wonder what grasp Donald Trump has, not only on his office, but on politics. You wonder what the game is. This entire book is, again, it's restated a lot of things that we knew about Donald Trump all along. But it seems that his tendencies have become exaggerated and are causing people that are closest to him grave concerns. And again, I just don't know how Mitch McConnell is cheered by the fact that H.R. McMaster and Steve Mnuchin and Rex Tillerson and everybody around him believes he is not fit to be president of the United States at a time we may be going to war with North Korea.
That's right, Joe. I think at this point, some of the president's comments about the book are going to be on the blurb, on the book's jacket. I mean, it's the best possible advertisement for it. At this point, the publisher, let's remember, it moved up its publication date. It was supposed to come out next week. It's now out today, like midnight last night in some places. The last thing, the president's intent to have people not read this book is obviously going to drive people toward it. But I think it speaks to something deeper about this president's personality, where he can let no slight go. It is not in his nature at all to just sit back, keep his mouth shut, and let something roll over him. He is going to hit back. He's going to fight back. He's going to punch back, which, it must be said, bringing Steve Bannon back into this is one of the things that drew Bannon and Trump together, right? It's some shared ideology, but it's more about this fighting spirit. The fact that Trump always liked in Bannon, or that he would hit harder. If he took a shot back, he would shoot that much more the other direction. And now we have seen that relationship disintegrate to the point where Trump is calling him Sloppy Steve on Twitter last night, which is not as good of a nickname as Lying Ted, but it's not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
It's not bad. But I also think that knowing Trump, and as we all know, in Trump's world, even when you're out, you're never really out. To the point where
you're never really out. That's it. You know what?
Right, to the point where Bannon is telling
people,
Bannon is still telling people, despite taking all this heat in the last 48 hours, that he fully expects, after a cooling off period, that he and the president will start talking again.
Well, and that's exactly what the president does. They will start talking. I'm sure they'll start talking again. He started sucking up to him yesterday morning and bowing and scraping, and that's what's required of Donald Trump. They can turn Michael Wolff into the bad guy and suddenly be anybody that thinks that Steve Bannon and Donald Trump's relationship's over has not been paying attention to Donald Trump for the past several years. David Ignatius, I know you want to get a question in on Michael Schmidt, but before you do that, I want to ask you about what is happening in Iran. In this morning's column, you have a fascinating line where you say that Tehran, when you visited it a few years back in 2013, was somewhere between, it was a mix between Pyongyang and Los Angeles. Which is something really that we saw in 2009. What I was struck by in 2009 during the protests was the fact that you had a red state Iran and you had a blue state Iran. It was split down the middle. Red state Iran wanted to keep the mullahs in charge. Blue state Iran wanted to move Iran into the 20th century so they could move into the 21st century. And you say, because it is so divided, that this is a regime that just can't keep winning. They can't keep pushing back the tides of history. Talk about it.
So what has been fascinating this last week is that red state Iran, which loves the mullahs, and blue state Iran, young, secular, wanting change, supporting President Hassan Rouhani, have both been in the streets, in conservative cities like Mashhad, in the elite areas of Tehran. Same thing, same phenomenon. So Iran has converged, I think, in a frustration with the regime's inability to deliver. And that's why this is important. And I think the regime is very much on its back foot now. This has been a cocky, confident Iran pushing its weight around in the Middle East. And I think for the moment they're going to be preoccupied with severe problems at home. I do just want to take
is it about economics, David? Is it about the fact that they are still struggling economically?
I think economics is the central issue. Iran should be the richest country, the most dynamic economy in the region. It has brain power. It has pretty good schools and universities. It has an entrepreneurial class that is ready to develop products, sell them. It could be a real regional hub, and that hasn't happened. And it deeply frustrates Iranians. They have a belief in their culture and in their sort of natural ability to be a dominant player in their part of the world. And so I think increasingly there's a little bit of a make Iran great again. Forgive me for borrowing the Trump slogan, but this sort of sense our country really should be doing better than it is, and that's come out, and it's one reason it's so widespread. Joe, if I might, I just want to turn to Michael Schmidt with a last question. Michael, we've been watching Bob Mueller on his back foot the last couple weeks as conservative media, conservative members of Congress attacked his investigation. Do you think after your revelation suggesting new possibilities of obstructing the investigation, after Michael Wolff publishes Bannon calling the Trump Tower meeting treasonous, unpatriotic, and bad bleep, do you think that this means Mueller's now on his front foot and that a lot of that criticism will go away?
I don't know. The Republicans did a very good job at undercutting him publicly at the end of the year. They really took the text message issue where the top agent had to express anti-Trump views with another FBI official, and they really used that to raise questions about Mueller's credibility. And Mueller had really good standing in Washington, someone on both sides of the aisles. But Republicans, even mainstream Republicans, were really going after him. Now, if you're a Republican, do you look at this and say, wow, maybe maybe Mueller has really good cards. Do I need to back off? I don't think so. There's been so many revelations that have come out about this president, and the Republicans have continued to stand by him. And I think they saw the success. You know, if you look on Fox, there's a constant drumbeat against Mueller and about his prosecutors, you know, being Democrats and such. So I'm not sure this will really change anything.
All right, we'll see. Michael Schmidt, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it. Just one note. Yeah, there are no prosecutors for our viewers of Fox News at night. There are no prosecutors that work for Bob Mueller that gave as much money to the Democratic Party as Donald Trump, the man that they're all investigating. So anyway, Michael, we're going to be reading your bombshell reporting in the New York Times this morning. Greatly appreciated, as always, you being on Morning Joe. We love having you here. And still ahead on the show, this.
Did Steve Bannon betray you, Mr. President?
Thank you.
Any words about Steve Bannon?
I don't know. He called me a great man last night, so, you know, he obviously changed his tune pretty quick. All right, thank you all very much. Thank you. I don't talk to him. I don't talk to him. I don't talk to him. That's just a misnomer.
But it's the last thing he heard. He called me a great man last night. Inside Steve Bannon's horrible, no good. Wait, no, it was a bad week, actually. He's bleeding Republican allies. Mitt Romney is gliding towards the United States Senate. The Voter Fraud Commission axed, and an Alabama Democrat joined the U.S. Senate. We're going to be talking about that with two of Washington's top reporters straight ahead. And on Monday, we're going to be joined by the author of the book that's tying the White House in knots. I wonder if they could stamp the book with "read the book the president doesn't want you to see." We'll ask Michael Wolff when he joins us here on set on Monday. But